sorry. They're just waiting for you. Everybody's waiting on you. Can you just, we are going to start. So you're on. Okay, thank you. So okay. Okay, no, yes, okay. I'm putting you on.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. The coalition spokesperson, Honorable Halifa Sallah, will now give a statement. Thank you.
We have promised, for the sake of transparency, to be giving you almost daily account of developments, so that the time you are spending here would not be considered wasted. We have an unconventional situation, which is of course being addressed in an unconventional way. But we believe we are almost coming to the end of our journey. President Barrow is indeed making preparation in the coming days, very soon indeed, not today anyway, as per the Twitter, which is definitely not from him. The Twitter account that is utilized on his behalf is Barrow Official 1. So any tweet that you receive that is not from that account, consider it to be false. It's a gamble. It could be true or false in terms of content, but false in terms of origin. He has called to indicate that he is making his final discussion with ECOWAS in order to announce the hour of coming. He has indicated the day, but it's an indication that I cannot give until it is affirmed. But I know the date he has given is not far off, and therefore all of you should continue to hang on so that we will cover his final journey to assume responsibility in a country where power was entrenched, and that power had never changed through the ballot box for 52 years. So it is indeed worthy of coverage. And precisely because of that, the transition is not in any way backed by some form of legislation. Because in any country that has gone through the process of transferring one executive power to another, you will have an act that will at least cover the transition period as to what should be done. So it means that once the government is established, we will have to create such an enactment. One of the crucial questions was to start the process of putting the cabinet into operation. I have told you that the political appointees in the cabinet, because this was a coalition of 7 parties and an independent candidate, and the agreement is that each of the stakeholders would actually be represented in cabinet. That process has actually taken place, and it could have been announced by now. But the decision of President Barrow is not to announce that, but to wait for the other component of the cabinet, which will comprise people by virtue of their professional capacity would be appointed to those posts, is what he wants to combine to do the announcement. And today, I should have been mentioning some of the members of that cabinet. But because we now have a country which is based on the principles of transparency and accountability, that will not be done today. Instead, we will have to cover what led to many people calling me and raising questions, that is the appointment of the vice president. Essentially, I've spoken to President Barrow that there are many concerns being raised. One must also understand that in the Gambian constitution, which would have to be reformed, we do not have parliamentary oversight of cabinet appointments. That is principal recommendation that will be made to President Barrow, so that in terms of constitutional reform, that will be there. Then we would not have been talking about this issue, because Parliament would have vetted, or the National Assembly, anybody who's appointed, so that they will know that the person is actually qualified to handle such a post. By way of clarification, I must inform you that the reason why he made it a primary decision to appoint a vice president is so that the advisors will have somebody to work with as we put the government machinery into operation. Because I've already told you that the government machinery is in operation. The Secretary General had called all the permanent secretaries. I'm sure you've heard announcement over the air, the ministries of basic and higher education telling the persons responsible that school should start operation. So indeed, all the institutions are functioning and services are being rendered as if the ministers are actually in their place. So what is important now is the appointment of the actual cabinet, and ministers under the Constitution are responsible for exercising direction and control over their ministries, and under them we have permanent secretaries who actually exercise direction and control over the departments under them. The permanent secretaries are the accounting officers, so as far as the machinery of government is concerned, the minister is principally responsible for the policy making, but it's the technocrats that are responsible for the implementation of policy. So we are saying that essentially the government institutions are functioning, and the primary decisions to ensure that detentions, etc., are put to an end are actually moving on, and people are coming back to us and indicating how the type of work that we need to do to complete the job of freeing Gambia from any form of coercion by government where people are detained without due process. The cabinet formation started with the vice president, and of course more names would have been mentioned, but the president has been carefully advised that he constitute a vetting committee which will take into consideration all the constitutional provisions regarding qualification, so that from henceforth all names that come in the public domain would have actually been vetted, so that people will actually come to a decision of building greater confidence in the government. The first instance is something that is still a matter of concern, but people will understand that the appointment was done in good faith based on the facts that were available at the time, and I'm sure if new facts emerge, that may lead to certain reviews by the President of the Republic. It is good for those of you who have not had the opportunity to know the Gambian Constitution to understand that the qualification for vice president is embedded in the qualification to be president of the republic. Section 62 of the Constitution indicates very clearly that a person shall be qualified for election as president of the Gambia if he or she is a citizen of the Gambia by birth or descent, if he or she attained the minimum age of 30 years but not more than 65 years, he or she has been ordinarily resident in the Gambia for the 5 years immediately preceding the election, he or she has completed senior secondary school education, he or she is qualified to be elected as a member of the National Assembly. The linkage between the presidency and the vice presidency is established under Section 70, subsection 1 of the Constitution. And Section 70, subsection 2 of the Constitution. It states that a person shall be qualified to be appointed as vice president if he or she has the qualifications required for the election of the president under Section 62. So it is evident that if anybody observes any breach of the provisions of the Constitution, well, you are free to share that with the president, and obviously whatever the Constitution says is what the president has sworn to do, and that is what he will always do. That is what he told me. And whatever the Constitution says is what he has sworn to do, and that is what he should do. So in short, the issue that has been broadened in the public space is an issue when you raise them under a democratic order becomes in fact an advice for those who manage the affairs of state to know exactly what to do. So we must say the beginning of the government shows the determination to be transparent, to be accountable. And it shows that governing is not an individual act, but a collective action, by ensuring that anytime they believe that something has been transgressed, it is their duty to point it out, but not in a way that they know all the facts, but they give the facts that they know, and know too that the authority relied on facts that were known at the time, probably without knowledge of the new facts, so that in determining the final judgment, what is in line with the Constitution would actually be done. It is also important for people to understand that the conflicts which may have been emerging in the country because of the exuberance of the population, where the military, Gambian military, is conceived to have kept Gambia in power without people paying due attention to the constitutional provision that whoever is president of the republic is commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the republic, and those who refuse to owe obedience, allegiance, or adherence to the authority becomes rebels and will be seen as mutiny. So consequently, one must understand that a country must have a public service, it must have a military, it must have a security force, and when you have a power that does not recognize the National Assembly, does not recognize the judiciary, does not recognize the guards and fences around the executive, around the legislature, around the judiciary, with whose bounds you must not exceed, which ensures us to have good governance. If you have a government which recognizes those bounds, control the legislature, control the judiciary, obviously you must have abuse of power. You must transform the state into an instrument of coercion instead of an instrument of protection. Rather than an instrument of service, it becomes an instrument that dominates and accepts to be served. So rather than government serving, government is served. This has been the case. And we must understand that to be particularly determined by the type of government which existed. But Gambians remain Gambians irrespective of the type of government that exists. And then when that government departs and a new government comes in, the fundamental objective is to include everybody in the process. And as a result, do things according to law. So we are calling on all Gambians to recognize the armed forces which exist and leave President Barrow to work with that armed force, security apparatus, and see how true reforms they could be made instrument of the Republic that serves the people and the Republic, not personalities. Helping to the country to move towards conflict is not what ECOWAS expected. What is expected is that civil and military institutions in the Gambia will begin to prepare our people to create one Gambia, one nation, one people. That is the ethos for which President Barrow stood to take over the country. And that is the ethos that he intends to stand to build the country. And we hope all of you will work with him with that spirit in mind in order for us to build a new Gambia that the world will be proud to associate with, proud to know that they have become part of our history, because it was the UN, the AU, ECOWAS, who daily and every means was utilized to ensure that we have peace with transformation of executive power. And we hope that you will continue to have faith in this process that must become more accountable, more transparent, and through this rectify mistakes and build the type of governance that will consolidate the fundamentals of democracy, of good governance, of human rights, of rule of law. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Halifa Sallah. We now move to the questions and answers section. Your name and institution.
My name is Umaru Fofana from the BBC. Mr. Sallah, could you kindly tell me who is in charge of the security of the Gambia, ECOMIG or the armed forces of the country?
Well, I've told you yesterday that because of the vacuum that President Barrow was advised to have military aid who will come to the Gambia, someone who is fully conversant with the characteristics, nature of the Gambian military and personalities, who would now be able to work with whoever is in command as far as ECOWAS is concerned, so as to help the Gambian armed forces and their heads to make sense of the ECOWAS coming inwards into the Gambia, and then they're filtering into the camps. And that I can say, I just received calls whilst I was doing a radio program at Paradise FM, and I'm sure that I will soon be informed that that has been implemented. And by tomorrow, I should be able to tell you what the new dispensation is, that President Barrow, of course, is in charge. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, but the forces on the ground need to be fully conversant with what is on the ground in terms of the other forces, ECOWAS forces.
Does that mean the Gambian armed forces? I don't seem to get it.
Well, maybe the way I talk is not to give away anything, but I'm simply saying that as it stands, because I'm capturing the transition, I've said yesterday that there were concerns raised as to who is in charge. And obviously, we said that President Barrow is in charge, and he's been informed of the situation on the ground, and it is being remedied. I'm saying that by tomorrow, I will be able to give you a name of his aide, who definitely will hold a press conference, hopefully with all of you present, to talk to you about his mission in the Gambia of ensuring that President Barrow remains in charge, and any force in the country would be a force of solidarity rather than a force of occupation.
Is my name. At some point, you did say that the seem not to understand that. It's either misquoting me or I need clarification in that area. And to be specific about the issue of the Vice President, as you know, of course, some issues are being raised about our age. So can you tell us specifically, is he below the constitutionally mandated age for a Vice President or otherwise? Thank you.
Well, your first question, observation, and need for clarification, what I'm saying is Gambia had never changed through the ballot box. And in all countries where you have transfer of executive power, you'll have an act that will indicate the processes that the transfer would take place. For example, here, President Barrow had no residence, had no security per se, and it was difficult that to say anything about what his rights were to a point that eventually ECOWAS was mediating and had to live with him. This is what I'm trying to say. We do not have an act of the National Assembly yet that indicates exactly what is the right of a president-elect until the term of the incumbent expires. That's what I mean. Now, the second question is, well, President-elect Barrow President Barrow, we've come, is elect for such a long period that it is now becoming the language. President Barrow actually has the prerogative to appoint ministers and the vice president. And I'm sure you know that the person elected vice president chaired the convention that led to the election of the then candidate of the coalition and has been chairing the coalition. So in a way, it's a prominent personality within the coalition. And obviously, when appointments are being made, the presumption is that the age is this day. So you do not appoint unilaterally based on flagrantly violating what is stipulated in our constitution, our statutes. So I must say that at this very moment, I am not the competent person to be able to address that. What I have received from President Barrow is precisely what I'm telling you, that concerns have been raised, and he is concerned. And what I have just read is conveyed to him. So he has the Constitution in his hands and the provisions that are of concern. And I am sure as soon as possible we'll hear from him to know exactly whether what people are saying is correct or not. That is the beauty of transparency. It means that the citizenry also have a voice in determining policy or determining decisions. I am simply telling you that he knows what is being said in the public space and is concerned about every word that has been expressed and is willing to consider every information in order to make a decision that will not violate the laws of the land. His very words.
One more thing, please. You said about the vetting committee.
Well,
the vetting
what
committee already constituted? Are these ministers to be appointed, being subjected to undergoing the scrutiny of this vetting committee?
Yeah, what?
If I am to come back, please, to my previous question. The president, not president, the president is concerned. Is he concerned that the person he indeed appointed as vice president may not in fact be eligible? What is his concern in specific terms?
Well, the fact that you say may just shows that that is the situation he is in.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's done something, but has he done something wrong? I think that's what he has to address himself. I cannot address that. I am telling you that he knows it, and he's giving it due consideration. So we are expecting that he will tell us something.
The vetting committee, please.
Yes, what I'm saying is that he's been advised that it would be appropriate to have a mechanism, since the National Assembly has not been given powers of vetting presidential cabinet appointments, then it means that his work is greater. It means that he must do more work in vetting his appointments. So that's why I'm saying that he's withholding the announcement of appointment that would have been announced today by virtue of what has happened today, so that he will do his job thoroughly.
Okay, 2 questions per person, please, so that we can give chance to everybody, and name an institution. Thank you.
All right, my name is Abdulaisi. I'm from GR Radio. My question is, it has been 1 month and 20 days since Adama Barrow was elected as the president of the country. In the interim, he's been coming here as his office and has been running some errands. So my question is, during this whole process, wasn't he working on formulating a cabinet? Because we've seen in other countries, it takes less than 2 weeks for a transition, and they have their cabinets. So it has been almost 50 days since he was elected. Hasn't he constituted a cabinet? And would it, if he hasn't constituted a cabinet for 50 days, then how long would it take for him to constitute, a cabinet? And the issue of appointing Ms. Tambajang as the vice president regarding her age, my question is, wasn't there any consultation with the coalition when she was appointed? Or wasn't she aware that she was being nominated for the position of vice president? And the other question is regarding the economic forces at State House. That's
2 questions.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Yes, as per your first question, when he was elected, then President Jammeh called him and indicated that he accepted the results. Immediately the next day, a liaison was established between the two. And it was communicated to the liaison that he has selected a transition committee. And the transition committee was established, and a letter addressed to the other party so that they will be able to set up their own transition committee. And the objective was the 2 transition committees will work, meet all the ministers at the time and their permanent secretaries and the managing director of public corporations in order to know their strategic plans, their policies, their programs, their plan of actions, as well as their projects and the budget lines, so that they will prepare handing over notes that will be given to the shadow ministers ultimately, who would then by now would have assumed office. But the day that the letter was supposed to be, the letter was supposed to be delivered, they said, hold on, and they kept on holding on until one Friday they said, well, they will not receive the letter because we should wait for an announcement. And the announcement was annulment of the elections and declaration of new elections. So when that happened, normalcy was abrogated and a situation of crisis became imminent. So with that, President-elect Barrow then was wondering whether he would ever come to power without the barrel of the gun. So in that sense, you're talking about a transition that was derailed. And it would not be fair to say that he had not put all the measures on the ground to be able to form a cabinet. Now, you must bear in mind that in a situation of crisis, announcing the name, consultation with people, many people, you would understand, will even be frightened for their names to be announced, that there will be a minister of something when you have not even consolidated the base that you will be handling a government. I think all of us know what the situation was. So we should not really try to paint another picture, which obviously would be a wrong picture. I believe that the people who are from the political parties know who they are. They know themselves. And clearly, when the president does an appointment, it's left to the facts that are before him when that appointment, or her, when the appointment is being made. So there is nothing that indicts President Barrow of dragging his feet or incompetence by virtue of an appointment which you believe that the person is of the age that the person should be appointed. So if now there are some concerns, well, you have to evaluate those concerns and believe that something would be done about it. I think this is being done in good faith. Now, the issue, second issue that you've raised, my mind has even strayed. Have I answered your question?
No, my question was the issue of appointing Tamale as the vice president.
Well, can you tell me what is?
Was it unilaterally in the end?
Exactly. Wasn't there any consultation with the coalition, or wasn't he informed prior?
Well,
She understands the constitution. If she's appointed, she can say, okay, I'm eligible.
well, don't indict people of understanding constitutions. Has she said that she has accepted the appointment? Do you know that whether she has written a letter accepting the appointment? No. Well, so you see, we must restrain ourselves in a situation of this nature, so that we know that everybody is acting in good faith. The president acted in good faith in appointing somebody who was very prominent in the coalition. So don't overestimate people's capacities. What we now realize is that an appointment has been made properly as far as President Barrow is concerned, but others are raising concerns. So we are told that he is taking those concerns into consideration. What is wrong with that? So this is really the situation, that those concerns are being taken into consideration, and he has made a fundamental decision that he will abide by the letter and spirit of the Constitution. And I've also told you that by virtue of the questions people are raising, since this is a democratic society where such questions are now expected to be raised, that he is holding on to give fresh look at the appointment made, so that such a scenario will not come back into the fore. That is the decision he has taken. If there is something wrong with the decision, you may tell me.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sallah. My name is Ismail Assise from the University of the Gambia.
Are you a journalist? Well, it's not an open forum. This is a press conference for journalists.
All right, okay, then I'm really sorry. All right, okay, then I'm sorry. Okay. All right, okay.
Mr. Sallah.
Yes, it was for
Mr. Sallah.
No. Should not
Okay.
be nobody is a journalist.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Mustafa Adamo, Stand Up. Yesterday when you had a press conference, you did inform people that President Barrow had issued an order for all the people in detention and all the people who are detained without trial to be released. There are reports that there are people who have not received their loved ones back home even after the order was made. Is this true or not? And if so, has there been an assumption that they could probably have died during detention or probably are still under detention?
Well, what is important, whoever has not seen a relative should inform the Inspector General of Police, any member of the coalition, my very self, the journalists, so that as we receive information, we will tell the proper authorities to conduct investigation. The last place that the authority, the government, has charged the Secretary General to charge the Permanent Secretary Interior as well as the Solicitor General to go and search for people who may be detained at the prisons. And once that is done, we can accurately come and tell you that in all places of detention, people who are supposed to be detained there unlawfully are actually released. So by then people can draw on their assumptions and their complaints, and work will begin.
But haven't you received even a single complaint from anybody charges that completed?
Yeah, we are telling you that many complaints exist, and the Secretary General has been asked to get the Ministry, Family Secretary Interior and the Solicitor to go and work on those cases. That's why I'm saying that they are now dealing. We know that, for example, the prisons, many have been released, but we cannot just rely on information from the prisons. It's from the families. And
help me, please. Sorry, help me clear this. No, I'm saying.
Clearing what?
Many complaints have been made, so I just want to be clear whether complaints were made about people missing, so that I get it right.
When you talk about missing, you must first clear those who are detained without trial. Until you clear that ground and know that nobody is there who is detained without trial, then you go into missing persons. Yes. We have made it sure that instructions are given to go and check those institutions so that we will not have anybody detained without trial.
We take a last question. It was him. No, last question, please. We can do the Mandinka version or the Wolof version. Let's have him. His hand was up before.
Okay, my name is Musa Sane from the Voice newspaper. I'm looking at the issue of withholding information with regards to the appointment of cabinet members. I think that is causing a lot of anxiety among the people. As a matter of fact, people have started asking, who will be minister so and so. So based on this, don't you consider the need to speed up the process of constituting a cabinet?
Well, I believe everybody says that this process should be speeded up, but they're also saying be careful. I think it's the two things, the two demands. Don't make mistakes, but do it very quickly. I believe that that is precisely what is being done at the moment. Today, you would have had new cabinet appointments, but I'm precisely saying that for the avoidance of anything that would lead to the government's competence being questioned must be avoided at all costs.
We now come to the end of the English question and answers and the English section. Thank you for joining us. I will give you 5 minutes for those who want to leave so that we can continue with the local languages. Thank you. I already said it, but they don't listen. No, it's not that. People want to come and pick their mics and so